We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners at Burke Financial Partners. Welcome to the Finances podcast. I'm not sure what episode number this is because we've got a series that are sort of all banked up and ready to post, Ben. I'm getting a bit of pressure to get
in the can.
There's a few in the can. So for those of you who haven't heard the podcast before, I'm your host, Jay Burke, Managing Director here at Burke Financial Partners. I'm joined by my usual co-host, Ben Kemp. I've got another co-host, Delta Smith. I nearly called you Delta Barnes then, Delta, sorry.
It's been
just
a while.
A force of habit. And Kelly Suvoltos.
Well
Did I get
done.
that right, Kelly?
Yes, well done, Jay.
Partnership Manager at Geelong Mums. Now, Kelly, I'm going to just run straight off the website here with your little bio. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It's too bad. But you can add some context. So after volunteering in 2015, Kelly joined Geelong Mums 2 years later as Geelong Mums Teamwork Coordinator with a background in event management, communications and marketing. She's responsible for the workplace volunteering program, social media and partnerships. Welcome, Ben, Delta and Kelly. Kelly, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jay, for having me. This is really nice to be here.
Now, is this your first podcast?
It is.
We've had a few of those, haven't we? Yeah, first ever.
Podcast virgin.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, this is a good opportunity for us. I think the last couple of podcasts that we've done have been focused around our charitable partners, and the way we've probably viewed it is a great opportunity for us as much as anyone else out there to understand a little bit more about the organisations that we're involved with. So we might, even though we want to talk about Geelong Mums today, I thought we might talk a little bit about you, Kelly, first. Now, I've given you a little bio, which I'm sure you can expand on a little bit,
Yes.
but I'm sure you had a life pre-2015. So
apparently so.
So let's go back to where you grew up, what you did, and what brought you to Geelong Mums in 2015.
Okay, so I'm a Geelong girl, through and through, actually. Once a Geelong girl, always a Geelong girl, I think is probably what lots of people would say. So born and bred here, have always worked in Melbourne, so the chance to come back to Geelong was something that I jumped at, especially post-kids. So to be, close to home and to work here. My background was in sport and event management, so, it's a big, long, different bow that I'm now working on. So worked in sport for Netball Victoria and Little Athletics and, did some fun stuff with the Melbourne Vixens, which was always great. But then a nice sea change, not that I moved away, but a nice sea change work-wise to come back here to Geelong and, do a little bit in the community. So that's really nice.
So where did you go to school? You said Geelong born and bred.
Sacred Heart.
Sacred Heart?
Yep, Sacred Heart girl.
Yep, and so Sacred Heart right through. Have they got primary through secondary? Or
No, secondary.
So whereabouts were your primary school?
St Bernard's, which is now Aldi in Belmont.
Okay.
It's not even there anymore. No, it then
Big
merged.
change.
Yeah, it merged with a few schools and it's now Clairvaux in Belmont. So,
Okay.
St Bernard's was on High Street and a tiny little school. Yeah, that is now the Aldi car park. So that's that's its claim to fame, I think.
and was Belmont your stomping ground?
Yeah, it was then.
Okay.
Yeah. But I haven't ventured very far from there because I'm now in Highton.
So Belmont, Highton, you spent a little bit of time, did you say, in Melbourne? Did you live in Melbourne for a period of time?
Yeah, a little bit
Okay.
when I first started working. When I was, first kicking dew off the grass for Netball Victoria. Had some great times there. That was an exciting time to work there. Was in the time when the footy netball leagues were changing from being separate to merging together. So that was a really interesting time working through netball then. Really nice to be back in Geelong. Well, I've been here for a long time though too, but back here and working here as well is the
How long
part.
were you away from Geelong? So you finished school, Sacred Heart. What year did you graduate?
1991.
1991. Okay, you're giving away a little
Yes, I'm
secret
giving away
there.
my age. Yes.
And did you go to uni, or you went straight into work with in sports management?
I went to uni, so
Yep.
I went to VU, so Vic Uni at Footscray.
Okay.
Still lived in Geelong, caught the train with a whole gang of Geelong people that were doing the same thing, which was always really fun, and did a PE degree, but didn't do the teaching part. So I had basically a degree in humour movement, I think it was called, and then did some more study later on to do a master's in sport management and that sort of thing. So, it led me, always wanted to be in sport back then, so it's really nice to have then changed completely a different tact. But yeah, sport is still a big part of my life.
I think we were talking about it off air. You were talking about the kids. You've got how many children?
2 boys.
13 and
15.
15.
Mm-hmm.
Footy mad.
Footy mad.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think maybe when I asked where does that footy madness come from, I think some of it might come from mum. Is that fair?
Yeah, it is very fair. No, yeah, I am. Maybe I have brainwashed them. But yeah, the Olympics is always my favourite time of every 4 years. But footy is definitely something that, they've all cottoned onto as well, so that's good.
Never got them out in the netball court.
Well, I have tried
Yeah.
when I was working there. They did have netballs as their ball of choice at the time. But yes, they have been on the netball court as well.
So being Geelong born and bred has probably lent itself well to you having some context of what goes on in Geelong, both from a business point of view and a social point of view. The move to Geelong Mums in 2015. So where exactly were you working just prior to that, before working for Geelong Mums?
I was actually working at Sacred Heart, so I'd come back to Geelong from working in Melbourne and working in sport. Was working for as the alumni officer there at Sacred Heart. So as a former student myself, that was a nice connection there. But I connected with 2 of the girls that started Geelong Mums, and wrote up their story for the alumni magazine, and really connected with what they were doing. So, after a few years there at Sacred Heart, I managed to be able to come across to Geelong Mums. So it started with some volunteering at that same time that I was working with them. But it is, just really connecting with that story, of what they were doing.
It's kind of a nice segue from where you were into the story of Geelong Mums and the sort of the origin story. I know Ben, Delta and myself and the team went out and did some volunteer work at Geelong Mums, and it was a good education for us, sort of understanding a little bit more. We did the video just before we kicked into gear with doing some folding.
You're going to say you learned how to fold clothes?
I did.
Did we have you cleaning prams that day? What were you
Packing, a bit of folding,
Clothes packs.
sorting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, we must have had a lot
Real
of
bare
stuff
bones.
that
There was
are just
boxes and boxes of stuff.
That's
We
right.
would have done
okay.
anything you asked us to do. We were all
And that
very
is,
keen to do it.
Yes, is the amazing, the joy of working in a warehouse of donated goods. One day and the next can be very different, or it could be exactly the same. But yeah, knowing that stuff will get out there to families in need is always really great.
So for Geelong Mums, let's step back a little bit. You mentioned you wrote the article. Was it in the newsletter for the alumni about the Geelong Mums story? At that stage, was it Geelong Mums or was it St Kilda Mums? So
No, Geelong Mums.
Okay.
So 2013, Geelong Mums started. 5 women around the kitchen table, working out what they wanted to be able to do was work out what to do with their cots, prams and car seats, those sorts of things that their kids are grown out of. It was twofold what they wanted to be able to do: stop them from going to landfill and getting them to families in need. So from that basic premise, they did a collection of items from one of their houses, and was such a big success that they very quickly filled their garage. Within 3 months, they had a storage shed in Newtown, and within a year, they had a warehouse in South Geelong. So the need was there. In that first year, they supported 300 families with items of cots, prams, car seats, clothing, those sorts of things. And fast forward now to, what's that make it, 9 years later, 2 warehouses side by side in South Geelong, a staff of 8, volunteer workforce of probably over 800, and supported over 6,000 babies and children in the last year. So, from that, humble beginnings, and from little things, big things have grown.
So who were the original crew, or some of the original crew that sort of started Geelong Mums?
Yeah, there was 5 women, Kate Betts being one of them, Chris Whelan, who's out at Mount Dunedin Estate, Kate Kent, who was then the first general manager at Geelong Mums, first paid staff member, and there's 2 more. There's Claire Dowling and...
Put you on the spot.
Yeah,
sorry.
you have
Big
put me
time,
on the
yeah.
spot, and that's
Maybe the
terrible
one
if I
you
can't
That's okay.
remember the
We'll
5th
edit
one.
that little
Yeah,
bit out.
yeah, thank you.
I'll do a little voiceover afterwards.
Oh, and I can see her too.
That's
Isn't
okay.
that terrible?
Ben will Google it all.
So there it is.
That'd be great, Ben. Thanks.
She works at Hamlin Homes. She's the marketing manager.
We'll play some little bit of thinking music over the top of this. Well, what's amazing, I was looking on the website this morning and you mentioned like 800 volunteers. Like that kind of blew me away. Like
That is huge.
Yeah, when you think about any organisation that scales from half a dozen people to a workforce or even a volunteer workforce of that size, I immediately just think logistics, the logistics of how the hell do you organise that? And I know when we were out visiting the warehouse, that's obviously something it's a really important thing and a difficult thing to manage, because you've got a lot of people want to help, they want to donate, they want to give their time, but there has to be structure.
Yep.
There's got to be structure around how you actually support the community.
Yep,
So maybe
exactly.
From those early days of kind of just collecting stuff and getting it in a warehouse, what from there, what was the evolution? Like how did we go from half a dozen mums who had a great idea to where we are today? What was the sort of evolutionary process of Geelong Mums like?
It's been certainly, and it's probably still a work in progress, following in the footsteps of St Kilda Mums. So when the girls, yes, they're 5 amazing women, but girls, when the girls decided, when they started doing that, then discovered that it was already happening in Melbourne. So rather than reinvent the wheel, they, got in touch with them.
Okay, so there wasn't a link other than the fact that they were doing something similar
Yep.
in Geelong and St Kilda. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where, and Jessie, who was doing it in Melbourne, arrived down with her ute, and they all collected things and whatever, and sort of worked in conjunction. So Geelong Mums, St Kilda Mums, and Eureka Mums in Ballarat is now one organisation with 3 branches. So that's where it started from those little humble beginnings, and working out of the back of utes and garages and whatever else. There was the Geelong first staff member, as I mentioned before, was Kate Kent. She was the general manager. We then had a volunteer coordinator, so there was 2 staff in the early days, and then now we have 8 staff working across the Geelong branch. There's another 25 at St Kilda, and I think there's about 6 at Ballarat. So, and things are all changing. Again, there's been a restructure recently and a new strategy. We're looking towards 2030. So, there's big things happening, and we've got big goals for how we get to everybody in Victoria.
I had noted that. I was looking at the website this morning and the vision for 2030. Maybe before I get to that, I think I probably skipped over. You started to touch on it, the services that are provided, and we've talked about the collection of prams and those kinds of things. But maybe let's go a little bit deeper into the kind of services that Geelong, St Kilda Mums, and Eureka Mums now. They all fall under the one name now. So is it Geelong Mums, or is it a banner?
We're still Geelong Mums.
Yep.
For now. That's a work in progress too, to make that a bit more not so confusing.
Okay.
St Kilda Mums Inc. is what we're called, but we're still Geelong Mums.
Okay.
So we're, one organisation, but 3 branches all called different things.
Got it.
Yeah, just a little bit confusing. But still definitely working here in Geelong on everything that we try to... so we work with a team or network of social workers, maternal and child health nurses, anyone working in that sort of area, they assess the level of need and they come to us and say, I've got a family with a newborn, a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I need clothes, cots, car seat, pram, toiletries, whatever it might be. And then we distribute to those social workers working in that area. So we don't have a direct connection with those families, but do that through those social workers.
Kelly, can I ask, if Geelong Mums didn't exist, what would those social workers do? How would they help families?
Yeah, fabulous question, because they often come to us and say, we don't know what we'd do without you, which is really nice to hear. They would probably buy that stuff out of their own pockets.
Okay.
You know, sometimes there's a little bit of funding for those sorts of things, but before Geelong Mums existed, a lot of that was buying it themselves, or getting it themselves for the clients they were working with. So that, you know, that could be, recently we had a story of a grandmother taking on the care of her kids. The 2 kids were 3 and 1. The grandmother had been in a 30-year an abusive relationship herself, and the kids were taken by child protection to go back into grandma's care. And as a grandmother, she didn't have, you know, the things that she needed, cots, prams, car seats, those sorts of things, to look after them in that, you know, immediately, right there and then. So that's where Geelong Mum steps in. These kids had developmental delays because of trauma, and now are doing really, really well. And grandmother talked of, you know, the 1-year-old, the baby that hadn't slept a real lot before, but now sleeps through the night. And she kept saying, because of her Geelong Mum's cot, I think it was more to do with grandma than the Geelong Mum's cot. But nice to hear those stories as a result of being able to give those things out.
You're really making a difference.
Yes, it's nice to know that.
To Delta's point there, do you have some context or some statistics on what sort of volume of people in the communities, let's maybe talk Geelong alone, actually make use of Geelong Mums?
I haven't got statistics on that off the top of my head, but I always like to use the one that 2 of the most disadvantaged postcodes in all of Australia are here in Geelong. So, you know, working off the back of that, that need is certainly there. In the last 2 years, there's something like, I think it was 48% of the families we supported were affected by the pandemic, by COVID, by job loss, by isolation, whatever it might be, you know, whether it was domestic violence in those lockdown situations and whatever too. And family violence, domestic violence is probably the biggest reason. Is that the right word to say? But yeah, the reason for why families might turn to us for help.
Yeah. Sorry, Delta.
No, I was just going to say, like, you think about the economic impact that Geelong Mums is having in being able to provide families in need with those items, but the sustainability impact as well, like that is, you know, phenomenal to think that all of these goods that potentially would have just gone to landfill are now being used by families in need, and, you know, the impact there is twofold in that respect. Yeah,
exactly right. And, you know, we added it up that if you went to, you know, your baby bunting or wherever it might be and got all those things that you'd need bringing the baby home from hospital, there wasn't much change out of $1,000, but we can do it, covering all our costs for about $138 per child that we're supporting because of those amazing donations. So yeah, that, and to stop all that stuff from, you know, ending up at the tip is a nice side effect as well.
Was there someone, when we were over at Geelong Mums, there was some talk of a recycling program for those, maybe I'm mistaken, car seats. The car seats that, for whatever reason, they, once they've been
after 10 years,
10 years or been in an accident, or that they at the moment just go to landfill.
Yep. Yeah.
Was there someone involved with Geelong Mums that was looking at some sort of a recycle program?
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. A lot of that recycling, you know, it's a worldwide problem, isn't it? So it is still a work in progress, that part. Working with the council currently on different things to work out ways of, and then there's little organisations that pop up everywhere that all of a sudden will go, yeah, we're going to do something about that. So there's amazing little, little blokes, that sounds terrible. Like sort of one-man bands or one-woman bands, maybe I should say, getting things started in that regard. So we're starting to work with a few different places that are doing that, or it might even be things like the Belmont Scouts comes and collects our steel and, from prams, and they use it, they recycle it in some way, and I don't quite know what they do with it after they take it from us, but they're quite keen to come and get it. So
make barbecues or something like that for their scout camps.
Scrap metal, get some cash.
Take it out to Sims Metal.
Yeah.
So there is definitely lots of ways that we're working together with lots of community organisations to get that awareness about that sort of thing out there too, in that space, because it's a big issue.
Yeah. In terms of accessing the Geelong Mums support, how can, like, if someone's listening to this and maybe they don't have support in any other way, shape or form, they don't have a support worker that can advocate for them, what scope exists for them to get support from Geelong Mums? Do they need to meet any particular kind of criteria? Can they roll up at the door at Geelong Mums? How does it work?
It would be having a support worker of some, and that doesn't mean, somebody, a support, that term support worker. It could be a maternal and child health nurse, could be a doctor, could be the midwife, could be a counsellor at school, somebody that is then, saying, hey, this person needs some help, and they register with Geelong Mums, and then they can come and collect, they put in an order, and can come and collect items from us. So, there does need to be that somebody in between assessing that level of need.
Sure.
So it can't just be anybody off the street coming into Geelong Mums.
It's interesting because we had Sean Cannon from Kids Plus on a few weeks ago, and one of the things I took from Sean was just how important it was not to just put people in his circumstance with a disability on a pedestal or promote them. It was about
integration.
It was about integration and advocacy, and making sure that those people that can connect services from people that are either disadvantaged, disabled, or are struggling, it's those people that can actually connect the dots between them and a service that's so important. So rather than just thinking, someone's got a disability or they're disadvantaged, they'll get the support they need. No, it's up to us as a community to advocate for those people and to provide kind of that bridge of support. And I think in this sort of forum, the podcast and getting it out to people, that's and I hadn't really thought about it like that. Like I had thought, I just thought differently about how we actually support people with advocacy to obtain services and to help them. And it's not up to me just to talk about it. It's up to me to actually do something about it.
Yeah, exactly. And we couldn't do what we do without the support of those, those maternal and child health nurses, the social workers. It might be a child protection worker. It might be the police. Yeah, there's all sorts of, or the school counsellor or the chaplain at the church. There's all sorts of people that are then being that go-between. And, if the last 2 years is any, indication, it could be any of us that ends up in that, in that situation, needing support and not knowing where to ask for help or how to.
So, Kelly, can I ask if I was in a position, I was a Geelong dad, would I be able to access support?
Very good question, and that's where I think that our name is probably a little bit misleading, because, yes, all comers, everyone, whether that's dad, dad that recently we supported a dad and his son who'd been living out of the back of a car. It might be grandparents taking on the care of the kids, as we talked about before. It might be uncle and auntie, whatever it might be, foster parents. There's no...
You don't turn anyone away.
Don't turn anyone away, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting when I think about Geelong Mums, though, I think I kind of think nurturing, maternal, and as a male, I like that. Like I think about my mum. You know, I think about that care. So I hadn't necessarily thought that it was devoid of men being able to take advantage of the services. It's kind of feels nurturing to me. But
that's a nice because we just have recently surveyed to see what our title means to people.
What was the feedback? Can you share feedback on
that it was misleading. Yeah,
okay.
That it was. That people think that we're for single mothers escaping domestic violence.
I guess probably we've talked about this a lot with these, but having a little bit of an understanding from our involvement means you get it more, whereas on the surface, people just off the street, no background, just assume that.
Yeah, that's probably a good point. Yeah, even though I feel like my knowledge is still limited, I've got enough context where I kind of understand and know that support's there for everyone.
And that's why we often say to people that are thinking of supporting us or whatever it might be, to come in and see
what you do.
To see it, because to see it in action is very different to, me banging on about it for forever. But when you see it and the scale of it, I think is the part that
that whole involvement. Like once you actually have kind of skin in the game with anything, you understand it more. You're like, again, throwing back to one of our other podcasts where we had Nikki Dunn from Wombat's Wish on, and we had a client appointment straight after that where we were talking to a client about that who was a teacher, works in a school, in administration at a school. She didn't know about Wombat's Wish, but straight away, just by talking about it, she said, that's awesome. I've got someone that I could make a referral to straight away. And so just that awareness, like bridging the gap and letting people understand more about the services, what the organisation does, it's so powerful. I think that's why, again, we're really keen to, as a business, continue to sort of promote and give a platform and boost the signal for the likes of Geelong Mums.
And that's awesome because that, with a marketing budget of pretty much zero, as my newest, you guys have been our ambassadors for quite a while, but that I said that yesterday when I went to chat to the Ballerine Knitting Group, who were gorgeous and knit jumpers and blankets and whatever, and our clothing packs look amazing with those beautifully handmade with love things going in it. But I said to those ladies, you're my newest ambassadors, and tell your friends and your kids and your grandkids and whatever, and that's how it just keeps going. So
word of mouth, ripple effect, like in any business or any organisation, it's so powerful. Yep. And I'd asked Amy, I think this is right. You might be able to fact check me if I'm wrong, Delta, but I was trying to work out how the connection with Geelong Mums actually came into being. We have, which we've mentioned on a couple of other podcasts, the Future Generation program, which is where our clients are able to make a contribution and nominate charity of their choice or something that's important to them. I believe I think Amy said Lucy Leach had put forward Geelong Mums. Was there another connection prior to that, Delta, that you can remember?
I was just reflecting on that when we were talking about the origins of Geelong Mums, being a Geelong mum myself. I remember I sort of reached out via social media saying, I've got these baby items that are no longer of use to me, they're good quality, and somebody said, there's a place in South Geelong, you can take your things as long as they're in good condition. And I think it sort of all came about from there. And as you touched on, just that awareness of there being an organisation that fills that specific need. Okay, I've got something here that I can help another family with. So I think there were sort of a few different connections that brought Geelong Mums into sort of the realm of Burke, Britain, and the connection there.
Yeah. I think we've probably touched on the Future Generation program a little bit in the past. Ben, do you want to sort of touch a little bit on that? Just maybe, I know we've talked about it probably ad nauseum in the last couple of podcasts, but maybe just for those that haven't heard that, the Future Generation program. And I think Amy gave me the figures. I think something in the order since 2020, our clients, through our client contributions, have contributed something around $18,000 towards Geelong Mums alone, which
is amazing.
Is amazing, and I wasn't aware that it was such a contribution, but I know that our clients absolutely love the fact that they can make that sort of a contribution, and that they can put forward a nomination, and we'll take it on board and help facilitate getting those funds to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, so one of the investment funds that we use has this philanthropic side to it. Got that word out correctly,
correct.
which
Well
is a
done.
good start. And they have a heap of people like actually work in there, investing money and doing all the boring things behind the scenes, but they actually donate their time, which means that any of those fees then can be donated through to charity. So because we've got a significant amount of funds through our clients in there, they gave us the option to actually choose things in our community that we wanted to use it for. So generally speaking, if you're just anyone off the street, they give you a list of 5 or 6 different charities that you can use. For us, we get the ability to actually carve it out as we see fit. So they've been awesome to deal with. You know, Jeff Wilson to start with, and then Louise Walsh, and then passing that through. There's sort of been a few different ones, but all equally engaging and happy to do whatever we sort of have wanted to. Like we've gone splintered it up into, there's too many things to pick from. So I think we started out with 1 or 2, and then we probably had, I don't know, 15 or 20 different organisations probably last year. There's too many good things to give
You
it
wanna
to,
help
which is
everyone.
hard, but it's because you want to give a significant amount to make a big change, but there's so many people who need assistance as well. So it's been, again, can't see it changing in the near future.
No,
And
it's been a great part of the business.
Yeah, sorry, Jay. I was going to say that that amount of money means a fabulous amount. It is a fabulous amount and means a great deal to us. That particularly over the last few years, when during lockdowns we had no volunteers and we had no donations coming in, those sorts of things helped us keep the doors open, and meant that we were still distributing. We didn't close one day at all for distributing items to families all throughout the COVID brouhaha of the last few years. So, never underestimate the power of, whether it's 50 cents or whether it's 500 or whatever it is, that can make a difference.
I might park the how we can support conversation and just, you mentioned earlier this vision for 2030. So maybe let's talk a little bit about that. What's the vision for 2030?
Now I've got to remember exactly what it is. But yeah, our vision for 2030 is that across the 3 branches we'll be working together as one organisation, still here in Geelong. But our vision is that we will support every baby and child in Victoria under the age of 6 that needs our help.
Wow.
So, it's some pretty lofty goals. We're probably nearly halfway there anyway. But it's, great to be able to, have that vision and something to work towards.
So that's pretty lofty. Ben's got his Google machine open at the moment. So how many kids did you say? That's all children in Victoria under
The age of 6
6.
that need our help.
Wow. Okay.
When we talked about stats and things before, the general stat is that there's 13,000 babies and children in Victoria each year that are living in poverty.
That we know of.
That we know of. Exactly
Yeah.
right. That we know of. And that can change, in the blink of an eye.
So you said,
Or
did you say earlier 6,000 last year?
that we supported, yeah.
So not even half.
No.
I was going to say, so you want to
Yeah.
at least double that,
Yeah.
that
And
ability to support.
across the three branches, I think that meant that last year, now I should have this better in my head, but I think there's over 20,000 that, between St Kilda Mums, Geelong Mums and Eureka Mums that we, gave something to, whether that was a toiletry bag, whether that was a cot, whether that was a bag of clothing. And I always think of, especially when you guys were had so much fun folding all those clothes that day when you were in at the Geelong Mums warehouse, I always think of the social worker that gave us feedback about the little guy who was 6 and had never been given a present before. And when he got a bag of those clothes, he did a fashion parade of everything that was in there. So, and I tried to tell that story at a primary school the other week, talking to the kids about, giving and all that sort of stuff. And all they could think of was, had Santa not ever given him a present either? Then I went, I was trying to backpedal on that one. But yeah, to not have that part I was trying to get across to them, to have not have been given a present. and that he saw that bag of clothes as a present is gorgeous. And because everything that we do is made to look like a present before it leaves the Geelong Mums warehouse, with the dignity of the receiver in mind.
Jay had to redo his a few times because it didn't look good enough.
Yeah, I was told off a couple of times. It's probably the first time I've folded clothes in
Been a while.
44 years.
I felt like I was just at home. Some more washing to be folded.
Let's go down that how we can support path. We've talked a little bit about the sort of philanthropic side of things with Burke Britain and some donations, but what else can we do in terms of donations, fundraising, volunteering? You've got an event coming up
We do.
that we want to talk about as well.
June the 9th is Giving Day at Geelong Mums. So on that day, we're asking for donations, as in financial donations. And on that day, all donations will be tripled. So if you gave $20, it actually means $60 to us. So that day, June the 9th.
So who's matching the contribution?
A few different organisations are matching that. So we've got some fabulous trusts and foundations and things that have already agreed to match those donations, which is a lot of work in the lead up to, that doesn't just magically happen. So that'll be really nice. But June the 9th online on the Geelong Mums website, you'll be able to make those donations and have it tripled on that day. Otherwise, we always are in need of volunteers. That everything that we do, probably at the minute our numbers are something like 80 families a week we're supporting with things going out of our warehouse. So hands-on time in the warehouse is something that we really, really love. Financial donations, as we've said, always help. And it always sounds a little bit awful to be saying, give us your money, but that, does make the world go round, doesn't it? And helps us keep our doors open and keep being able to do what we're doing. So, time, donating money, and just being part of that community is always fabulous. So, remember June the 9th.
June the 9th, duly noted. In terms of where else people can find, obviously they're going to hear our little podcast and hopefully look up Geelong Mums. Where can people either look up Geelong Mums if someone wanted to volunteer? Who would they get in contact with?
Fabulous. On our website, so geelongmums.org. All those details are there for how to register to volunteer. You can register your interest and then we get back to you about when inductions are and those sorts of things. Our social media is our biggest, probably our word of mouth tool that we use, but our social media has daily updates of things we're most in need of and the things that are going on. I don't know where we'd be without our social media and getting the story out and word out that way. But definitely our website, as well, geelongmums.org.
In terms of making donations of goods, how does that work?
You can either just drop into our South Geelong warehouse. We're at 110 Ballyang Street in South Geelong. You can make a time to do that on our website as well, or else you can just drop in. Everything that you need to know about donation, there's a full list on our website as well of the things that we do and don't rehome, because sometimes people arrive with amazingly things that we've never ever seen before to donate, which is really lovely, but we can't always do everything with everything that we're given. So
what's the type of stuff that you don't want?
Things that aren't in fabulous condition. We often say if you wouldn't give it to your best friend, we can't give it to anyone either. So things that, freshly washed and in great condition is what we would suggest for clothing. Cots need to be within, now this will test my memory, cots need to be within 10 years old and car seats we need within 8 years old. They have to meet those specifications so that we can give them out again then with Australian standards. So they're the things, but the full list is available on our website. But that freshly washed in great condition, and if you wouldn't give it to your best friend, it's front of mind.
Do you still do that rolling list of things?
So usually on a Friday on our social media we'll have a call out for what we're most in need of. At the minute I know that we haven't got, our shelves are empty for wipes, for nappy, for baby wipes. So, you know, things like that, you know, probably the rest of us take for granted.
Makes it easier, I think. We've done it in the office. Put a basket there, throw the
Yeah,
list up,
perfect,
and then people
yeah.
know what to do. And you
Yes.
just got to
You're at the
guide people.
supermarket,
You just
get
throw
an
that
extra
in.
Yeah,
Just
'cause
guide
not
them.
shampoo.
Not
or-
everybody has a cot or a car seat,
Yeah.
but you can help with a bottle of shampoo
Yeah.
or, you know,
Is
nappies and wipes.
Is baby formula a thing, or is that that is?
Yep. Yes, we love
Is baby formula in shortage in Australia? I keep hearing that
There
there's-
had been
Okay.
a little while ago, was all being shipped off to somewhere else.
Overseas.
Yes.
Yeah, America has a baby formula shortage at the
Okay.
moment, I believe. But
Yep.
yeah.
So people can literally, if you want to, you can go to the supermarket, you can grab some goods, you can pop it in a basket, and you can drop it off at Geelong Mums.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or you could have your online order delivered to us. That
Okay.
was particularly in lockdowns. That was a way that we were able to receive things, that people were able to get online and, you know, do their Coles or Woolworths online order and just have it delivered to us.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. So then you don't even have to leave home,
Yeah.
and you're still doing good for the community.
Connecting families and services. Is there anyone out there that's listening to this that's a counsellor, or they're a school chaplain, or like how do they become an advocate and a connector of the Geelong Mum services to people that they know?
Yep, they can. Same again. Our website is a wealth of information, but on there they can register their details, and then gets them in touch with our social services coordinator, who then is works in that process of working everyone together.
Who's the social services coordinator?
Our social services coordinator is Jackie,
Okay.
and she'll be the person on the end of the phone, being able to talk them through exactly what, you know, if they're having trouble with the form or whatever it is online. But she's the go-between of the go-betweens.
Okay. Jackie's got a busy role by
Yes,
the sounds
exactly
of it.
right.
Kelly, can I just ask, I understand that there's some local businesses that provide things like cots at cost price. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is some amazing organisations that we work closely with to do that exactly. And between the three branches, as in Geelong, St Kilda and Eureka Mums, we've got a little bit of buying power there between the three of us and the amounts that we're needing to be able to do. So we do work closely with organisations that do that. But then other places like Cotton On, for example, yesterday we had 30 boxes arrive from them, of clothing that they didn't need, but from Cotton On Kids. So our community is really amazing, with everything that people want to help, which is really nice to know. We probably, hear so much that we're, awful times and whatever, but people do really want to help, which is really nice.
Sometimes it's the quiet majority that just busy helping people out, contributing to their community, and that's why when you talk about social media being like one of the best things, because we constantly hear just how painful or negative social media is, when there's so much good that can actually come from it. It's a pretty good vehicle that organisations and businesses maybe wouldn't have the benefits that they have today if they didn't make good use of it. By the sounds of it, Geelong Mums is making very, very good use of social media.
No, I often have this argument at home with my husband because he'll always social media and we don't want the kids. And I said, but what about all the good that it can do? Well, that's what was coming from my angle of using it. Using it for good and not evil. The connections and the partnerships and things that have arisen from doing a little shout out on social media or showing our volunteers in the warehouse or whatever it might be, it can certainly be used for good.
Last question around how we can support. I'm looking at the website around employment opportunities. So is there, what are you looking for at the moment in terms of staff? Like, is that something that you're actively looking for, or you've kind of got all seats filled at the moment?
All seats are just about full at the moment. We have recently just recruited for, I can't remember what they're called, inbound network I don't know. They've got a new fancy name. But yes, there is at the minute across all three branches a supporter care coordinator being recruited for. So that's working with all of our supporters. So it might be with donors, anyone who needs support. No, so it's, sending thank yous. It's the stewardship of looking after everyone, people that have given money or their time or goods donations. So that, I think, closes Sunday. So there is details on our website about that too.
And I said that would be the last one, but I've got one other question. You mentioned before that you went out to a knitting group. Where was that?
It was down at Queenscliff. It was the Bellarine Knitters.
Now, if someone wants to have you come out and talk to their organisation about Geelong Mums, that's a thing, is it?
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, especially when they're making such fabulous things. But yeah, we're often out there chatting to people about ways that they can support. Whether that's financially or with knitting jumpers or blankets or whatever it might be.
Or an event. So there's a section there around a speaker request on the website. So
Exactly
if
right.
you've got an event and you're wanting to get Geelong Mums up and talking at the event.
Exactly. Or if you wanted to work out ways of fundraising for us, there's all sorts of things that we can come and talk to you about to get the ball rolling in that way.
Brilliant. Well, I'm mindful of everyone's time. We're nearly an hour in, so I'm sure we could continue to talk for a long time, Kelly. Listen, thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
We've loved hearing a bit about you and a lot more about Geelong Mums.
Excellent.
I'm certainly feeling more well informed every time we catch up with you and the crew at Geelong Mums. Delta, do you want to add anything else before we let Kelly sign off?
Just make sure everyone is a follower of Geelong Mums on social media, and like you touched on, Kelly, you can see what's particularly needed for that week if people are in a position to help out immediately.
And Ben, anything?
I think I've said this every time we've done one of these, but it's just good to get more info. Like, we understand a little bit more than probably the majority because we've had some involvement, but some people might have never heard of it. Yeah. Even though it sort of feels a bit odd for us to say that, we've just been exposed to it through however we came across it. So I think it's just good to keep spreading the word.
That's awesome, and thank you so much, you guys, for your support. That is priceless.
Brilliant. Any closing requests for those listening out there, Kelly, before we let you go?
Make sure you tune in to Geelong Mums on the 9th of June for our Giving Day. Keep your eye on our social media for everything that's going on. And we'd love to see you in at the Geelong Mums warehouse.
Beautiful. Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kelly.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britain FP, or Google Burke Britain Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility, do your homework, ask questions, and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PP Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britain Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.